Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto absorbed Kaguya in Fairy Tail. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Ghostturnip and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Origin. The body flew across the ground before coming to an abrupt halt against a giant rock, shattering it. The action caused a cloud of dust to form, obscuring the body. A woman gently floats down to the dust cloud. She is a tall woman with beautiful aristocratic features. She had white hair and eyes and two horns a few inches long on her forehead. Her name was Kaguya Otsutsuki aka the Rabbit Princess. She was the Juubi and the progenitor of all chakra. She waves her hand and the dust disperses, revealing the only other person around. A teenager with bright blonde hair and tan skin was lying on the ground. He was wreathed in a golden glow. He looked up and stared at his attacker with light purple eyes filled with concentric rings. He pushes himself to his feet and takes up a fighting position. This person's name is Naruto Uzumaki. Namek is the child of prophecy. Why do you continue to fight? It's obvious I am stronger than you. Even with the boost of power you received from your comrade. You only are as strong as my son who beat me with a stroke of luck and nothing else. There is no way you could defeat me. Just give in and let the Shinju take your chakra like everyone else. You are the last person awake. Kaguya says in a monotone voice. Her eyes filled with pity towards the boy in front of her. Shut up, I will never give up. Believe it. I will win here and wake everyone up. Naruto proclaims, looking down at his palms. One has a white dot and the other a black moon. He clenches his fists and rushes at Kaguya. Moving so fast he seems to disappear. He aims a staggering punch at her head. She turns to the side and it sails harmlessly over her shoulder. She lets out a sigh and closes her eyes. I tried to show restraint and mercy, but I grow tired of this. She grabs Naruto's hand and throws him over her shoulder. He flies through the air but straightens himself out in midair and starts to hover. He moves his finger into a cross sign and 8 clones come into existence with a burst of smoke. They all hold their hands high and a ball of energy appears above their hands. The bell-like screeching rings out as the energy grows into a ball with 4 blades circling around it. Each ball takes the properties of one of the Biju and the clones all throw the attack with a combined cry of Biju Rasen Shuriken Barrage. The 9 balls of energy fly towards Kaguya. A portal tears into existence in front of her and the attacks fall in, appearing behind Naruto. He turns around and absorbs his own attack into him, returning the expended chakra. He clicks his tongue and rushes Kaguya again. They both disappear and explosions of force ring out across the barren land. As the two godlike individuals' battle rages on, the top of the Shinju tree blooms. A glowing red fruit is in the middle of the gigantic flower. This is another chakra fruit. The second to ever be grown. It was the fruit Kaguya ate, giving her all of her godly powers. Kaguya and Naruto stop fighting and their heads snap to the top of the tree. Their eyes widen as they both realize what has happened at the same time. They realize how important the new fruit is. They both blur off towards the top of the tree. They race towards it, but unfortunately for Naruto, Kaguya rips another portal and teleports to the top of the tree. As she reaches for the fruit, Naruto throws another Rasen Shuriken at her, hoping to stop her from eating it. She pulls her arm back, letting the attack sail by before exploding in the air behind her. Her hand reaches down and plucks the chakra fruit. She holds it up and looks down at Naruto. He is too far away to stop her, so she goes to take a bite of the fruit. Naruto screams out and sends chakra into his Rinnegan as a last-ditch effort to stop her. Knowing if she eats that fruit he will never be to touch her, let alone defeat her. His prayers are answered as he swaps places with Kaguya. Kaguya's eyes widen as she realizes what has happened. All-killing ash bone, she shouts as a bone pierces her palm and shoots out at Naruto, but it's too late. His teeth sink into the fruit and a huge explosion of chakra blasts her attack away. Chakra wildly explodes out of Naruto as he eats the fruit. Red pain burns through his body, but he keeps eating. He finishes the fruit and looks up at Kaguya, a wild smirk on his face. His eyes widen and he hunches over. Extreme pain shoots his body. He lets out a blood-curdling scream as his body starts to change. He grows a few inches taller, ending at around 6'2". His hair turns lighter and grows out. He not has pure white hair the color of freshly fallen snow that ends around his lower back. A small crease of skin runs down his forehead before splitting open, revealing a Rinnegan on his forehead. His skin loses its tan, becoming a flawless porcelain complexion. The pain starts to fade and he looks over to Kaguya and grins. Wow, I feel great. Is this how you feel all the time? No wonder you got so arrogant. Don't worry, I won't let you feel that way much longer. He disappears from view and Kaguya goes shooting to the side, Naruto standing where she was with a leg raised. He looks down at his hands and his smile grows larger. He slowly walks over to where Kaguya landed. Her eyes were wide and she runs a hand across her mouth. On her hand is a small smear of blood. Her chakra starts to leak out of her. A heavy weight falling over the battlefield as her rage grows out of control at seeing her own blood for the first time. Her head snaps up and locks onto Naruto as he slowly walks towards her. Enough. Now I am truly angry. It's time for you to die. 80 God's vacuum attack, she screams, her mind finally snapped. She loads her arms with chakra and uses it to create a huge amount of fists to punch Naruto with. Undeterred, Naruto keeps walking towards her as huge shockwaves explode around him, showing how strong her attack was. Naruto is untouched in the storm of fists. His own hand shooting out and absorbing each chakra fist as it gets close to him. Realizing her attacks aren't working and only strengthening her enemy, Kaguya stops her attack. All-killing ash bone, Kaguya shouts, and tons of bones pierce through her skin before firing like missiles towards Naruto. They all fly towards Naruto as he starts to run away from them, hoping to lose them. They change course and follow Naruto before eventually catching up to him and skewering him. Naruto's eyes widen as he feels the attack hit. His body slowly turns to ash and falls apart to the relief of Kaguya. She calms down knowing that attack is a sure kill, or that's what she thought, until a hand is gently placed against her back. Her head snaps around as she feels something tearing inside her. Her eyes lock with Naruto's as Rinnegan stares into Rinnegan. Shadow clone never fails. Goodbye, Kaguya was the last thing she heard before her soul was ripped from her body. Naruto looks at the soul in his hand while her body quietly hits the floor. He absorbs her soul and body, gaining all of her memories, techniques. His eyes close as he sorts through her memories. His eyes snap open and he opens a portal to the Shinju. He appears on one of the roots of the tree and rips open one of the cocoons hanging from it. Instead of seeing the grumpy sleeping face of his best friend Sasuke staring at him, instead he sees the lifeless yellow eyes of a white Zetsu. He screams to the heavens, flaring his chakra in his grief. The world shakes with his sorrow and power. He had failed everyone. His fight with Kaguya had taken too long. Unbeknownst to him, the chakra fruit that helped him defeat Kaguya was actually one that was born from all of the chakra being sucked out of the people trapped by the Shinju. He went and tore open all of the cocoons, a white Zetsu in each one. He dropped to his knees and wept. His only goal was to save his friends, and he had failed it. Not only did he fail his friends, he failed everyone. The tree had grabbed every person with chakra, which included civilians and dead bodies. Not only was he the last ninja, but he was also the last person alive. No one else was alive in the entire world. He looked at the Shinju and placed his hand against it. It started to get sucked into Naruto's hand. He absorbed not only the god tree, but every white Zetsu that used to be a person. Because white Zetsus kept all the memories and took the exact chakra network of the person they were, Naruto had essentially absorbed everyone who has ever lived. A pulse of chakra releases from Naruto after he finished absorbing the Shinju. A huge pillar of chakra shoots into the sky from Naruto. He starts to scream as his body is torn apart from the huge amount of chakra inside him. An explosion of chakra goes off and reveals that Naruto was no longer there. It seems like he had disappeared. It turns out that he had absorbed too much chakra recently and it caused him to explode. When he ate the chakra fruit, he added the same amount of chakra that Kaguya had onto his already huge chakra reserves. Then he absorbed Kaguya, which added her chakra onto his new amount. He was in essence two Juibus in one body. Finally, he added the god tree into himself and his body couldn't handle it. Several millennia later, all the chakra that was given off from Naruto exploding started gathering in one place. All of the chakra that had ever been in the world was swirling around a single spot. The chakra started to get pulled into the center of the storm. As the last of the chakra was pulled into the storm, a silhouette could be seen in the center. All of the chakra was absorbed and a naked man was the only thing showing something happened. This man is Naruto, or was him. Technically this isn't a man, as it was just a collection of chakra given shape. Naruto opened his eyes, showing two blood-red orbs with concentric rings around his pupil. In those rings were three Tomo lazily swirling around, almost had flawless skin that was so pale he looked ethereal. He was around 6'3". His muscles were perfectly defined, not an ounce of fat on him. It almost looked like he was carved from marble. He had a jaw-droppingly handsome face with high cheekbones and a strong jaw. On each cheek were 3 whisker marks. Naruto looked down at his hand and clenched his fist, testing his new body. It felt good to be back in one piece, being a floating sentient mass of energy for thousands of years. What to do now? Naruto wondered aloud. His voice deep and smooth. He took a second to think before he started to walk towards Konoha. A few weeks had passed and it showed Naruto standing on the Hokage monument. He was no longer wearing his old jumpsuit. He was in a pure white high-collar kimono with black magatama around the collar. It was tied off with a black obi. He had a necklace with separate swirls, each a color of one of the biju. Under his kimono was a burnt orange shirt. He was also wearing wooden Jetta sandals in the style of his master Jiraiya. Naruto had spent the last few weeks wandering around the elemental nations, using his creation of all things to create replica bodies of everyone he absorbed. He also destroyed all of the remnants of the shinobi era. There were no longer any hidden villages or ninja tools. He was trying to pay for his sin of sloth by starting a new world. He was standing in the middle of a beautiful garden he had created. He closed his eyes and held his hands out. In his left hand he put yin chakra or spirit chakra. In his right he put yang chakra. He moved his hands together and clasped them tight. Using yin chakra, he created 2 human bodies each without any chakra networks. He then pushed his yang chakra into the bodies and breathed life into them. He had created 2 new humans incapable of using chakra. This was the only thing he could think of doing to pay for his mistakes. After the new humans were born he turned around and started to walk away. He walked to where Konoha once stood and looked around to the beautiful forest where he used to do missions with his friends. A tear falls down his cheek at the bittersweet memories. He shakes his head to clear his mind. What do I do now? I'm stronger than anyone has ever been and everyone I know and love is dead. I can't be here for the new humans. I don't want another Hagoromo situation where they worship me like a god. An idea pops up in his head and he closes his eyes and focuses his chakra. He rips a hole in space-time and steps through it. Chapter 2. The false god lands. Naruto opens his eyes and looks around seeing only blue around him. There it worked. I'm not in the elemental nations anymore. Where am I though? I look like I'm in the sky. Oh, I'm falling. That makes sense, Naruto says as the ground rapidly approaches him. Just as he's about to hit the ground he starts to hover. He rights himself and gently lands on the ground. He looks around and sees an unfamiliar forest. As he is walking around he sees what looks like a young girl floating behind him wide-eyed. The girl was cute and had waist-length blonde hair and green pupilless green eyes. She was wearing a light pink dress with a red ribbon tied around the collar. Hi. If you didn't notice, I'm lost. Where am I? He calls out to the girl. She seems even more startled and floats away quickly, not answering him. So it seems like weird things are common here. That works for me. Naruto thinks as he starts walking around, familiarizing himself with the landscape. As he is walking he notices some energy that is similar to chakra everywhere in the air. He sits on the ground next to a tree and closes his eyes, focusing on this foreign energy. It seems similar to chakra, but it's everywhere in the air. So people can't make it themselves but draw it in from the atmosphere. Interesting. He opens his eyes and stands up. Well, let's follow that ghost girl. He follows her energy signature and walks towards it. As he gets closer to her he senses another energy signature, but this one is much darker. He finally gets close and notices the ghost girl is talking to a man with black hair and black eyes. He hides behind a tree and decides to listen to the conversation. He just fell from the sky. 1 second there was nothing and the next this guy just falls right in front of me. Not only that but he also could see me. The ghost girl says, floating in front of the presumably emo guy called Zeref, frantically waving her arms about in his face. Relax Mavis, he is probably just another one of your fares, Zeref says to the now named Mavis. He isn't and that's why it's weird. Mavis frantically yells in Zeref's face, almost crying. At this point Naruto calmly walked into the clearing. He casually waved to the two. It's not nice to talk behind people's back, you know. He says, giving his trademark foxy grin. Mavis looks startled and Zeref just raises his eyebrow. Naruto walks closer to them and Zeref calls out, don't get close, you will die. But his warning was too late. Naruto got too close and a pulse of dark magic rolled off Zeref and washed over Naruto. Oh, that little pulse of energy was supposed to do something. Naruto's voice calls out close enough to be in the effect of his curse. Zeref's eyes snap open and he stares at the stranger. No one has ever lived through his curse. Only Mavis can be close because she is already dead. How are you alive? Zeref calls out cautiously. I will tell you if you tell me who you guys are and where I am, Naruto says, sitting a few feet away from the two wizards. Zeref and Mavis look at each other and shrug, agreeing to the agreement. My name is Zeref and this is Mavis. You are currently on Tenru Island. Mavis nods her head childishly to what Zeref was saying. Okay, where is Tenru Island? Naruto asks, his head tilting to the side. It's pretty far off the coast of the kingdom of Fiori. If you don't know that, how did you get here? Mavis asks, slowly floating over to Naruto. Well, that's easy. I tore a hole in the fabric of space-time and fell in, of course. Naruto says, puffing his chest out proudly. He deflates a little and looks up at the two strangers again. What is the kingdom of Fiori? Both of the mages stared at him. You really expect us to believe that you ripped a hole in reality? Mavis says, floating around his head. Naruto just picks up a rock and throws it to the side. A portal opens up and it falls into his other hand. Both of the mages' eyes widen. Teleportation magic is a thing but not portal magic. Well, does that prove anything to you? Naruto says, wagging his finger at Mavis. You didn't answer my question. How are you not dead? And why can you see Mavis? You aren't a fairy, are you? Zeref asks him, his curiosity piqued. He fully looks at this stranger and for the first time notices his strange clothes and eyes. Naruto shoots Seraph a glare. Well, I may have kissed Sasuke on accident, I am definitely not a fairy. Mavis giggles and floats over to Seraph and says. Not that kind of fairy, silly, the guild fairy tale. Naruto looked at her confused. Am I not supposed to see you if I'm not from this guild? Mavis shook her head. No. You are not even supposed to be allowed on this island, let alone see me. It's a miracle we are even having this conversation. Naruto nodded his head in understanding. I see. Well, have you thought that it's because I'm awesome? And that guy can see you just fine, can't he? Naruto asked, pointing at Seraph. I can't see her, I can only sense where she is and what she is saying. I technically can't even hear her. Seraph says, calmly looking at Naruto, ignoring Mavis as she makes funny faces in front him. Okay, why don't you guys just tell me everything I need to know about this world? Like who you guys are and what is this weird energy stuff in the air? Naruto says, crossing his legs together and looking at the mages. Seraph and Mavis look at each other and start to explain everything, like how they are in Earthland and what magic is and how it works. They talk about the guild system, both good and bad, and the magic council. After a few hours, Naruto is no longer hopelessly confused about everything. So you guys are mages and you use magic. Not chakra. Mavis shakes her head as his words. No, we use the ether nano from the atmosphere. Naruto nods and jumps up looking excited. I really want to see how strong I am in this. Does one of you want to fight? He says, punching the air in front of him in his excitement. Mavis laughs and Seraph just rolls his eyes and looks away. You can't touch me, silly, I'm a ghost. And he is a grouchy pants, Mavis says, pointing over her shoulder to Seraph. I have no interest in fighting anyone. I just want to die. Seraph says, closing his eyes. Naruto huffs in annoyance. Why is it no matter where I go I always run into emos? Mavis giggles at his joke and floats upside down next to Naruto. You are pretty fun. You should join Fairy Tail. I think you would enjoy that. Plus you could come here again and talk. Naruto thinks about it for a while before nodding. I think I might go check this fairy tale out and see if it's any fun. Also remember, I can teleport. I can come back whenever I want. Wouldn't want you to get poisoned by the emo here. Naruto says, pointing to Seraph. Seraph scoffs and looks up at Naruto. I'm not emo, anyone would be as sad as me if you have seen how horrible humanity has become. He says, looking at Naruto. As he said it though, Naruto seemed to have aged decades and he gained a faraway look in his eyes. I guess you are right, huh? Humanity sucks here too. Naruto says, looking down at Seraph. Their eyes lock and Seraph closes his again. You have sad eyes, Naruto. Like you have seen terrible things. The same type I have. Seraph says, a little respect in his voice. Naruto laughs hollowly and turns away. Seen. More like done terrible things. But yes, horrible things. Everyone I know and love dead and it was all my fault. Naruto's voice is hollow and defeated, showing how much grief he is truly going through. Seraph looks up and gently nods towards him. Hold on to that sadness, Naruto, let us keep you on the path of goodness. For if you fall off I will come stop you. I don't think anyone else would be able to. You seem strong. Seraph says, sizing Naruto up. Naruto laughs out loud, closer to his old laugh, but with a challenging edge to it. I doubt even you could stop me, Seraph. I abandoned my humanity to get the power I have, and even then it wasn't enough, Naruto says, letting his chakra out. Tenru Island shakes from the pressure emanating from Naruto. Both Seraph and Mavis freeze up, feeling as if a great predator has set their sights on them. Neither has felt that way in hundreds of years. As soon as the pressure started, it stopped. Naruto looks over his shoulder at the two immortals. Seeing their startled faces, he smiles mischievously. He starts to walk away from the two towards the thousands of energy signatures he now knows as the Kingdom of Fiori. Mavis and Seraph watch him go with big eyes. Seraph, do you think you could beat him in a fight? Mavis asks shakily. Seraph shakes his head. That thing isn't human, it's a monster. No one should get that strong. Hearing this, Naruto smiles and disappears in a flash of white. Chapter 3. The false god finds a family. After having a very enlightening conversation with Mavis and Seraph, Naruto teleported away to the Kingdom of Fiori. He appeared on the beach and looked around. He sensed magic signatures a few miles away and starts to walk towards them. He walks into town and asks around to find out where he is. He learns he is in a small port town called Harjan. While he is talking to someone, his stomach growls loudly. He asks for directions to the nearest restaurant and the kind stranger points in a direction and he starts walking. As he is walking, he notices a large crowd of people all fawning over some guy. Noticing that magic is being used, he changes his course to intervene. As he gets close, a kid with pink hair shoves his way into the crowd and talks to the guy using magic. Eventually the kid gets beat up by all the fangirls, which gets Naruto to laugh. The mage who cast magic over the girls flies away, saying something about a party on a boat. Naruto shrugs and keeps walking, but stops abruptly upon hearing the words "food my treat" from some blonde chick with big tits. He looks over and sees she's talking to the beat up kid with pink hair. The pink-haired guy stands up and drags the blonde chick off towards the restaurant Naruto was heading for. Naruto smiles and realizing that he can play a prank follows the two kids. As they sit down and settle in, the pink-haired kid orders a bunch of food and they talk. Naruto sits in the seat with his back towards the two mages. He listens to their conversation and learns that the magic user cast a spell called Charm over the girls and how it is a forbidden spell. He also hears how the newly named Lucy wants to join that guild. Mavis was hooting and hollering about Fairies something. Finally, the waitress comes back with huge platifulls of food. The pink-haired kid immediately starts to chow down on the food to the amazement of Lucy. As Lucy watches her savior inhale food, she blinks and rubs her eyes, realizing there are now two people eating her wallet into oblivion. "Hey, who are you?" she yells, pointing at the weird white-haired guy eating just as fast if not faster than the pink-haired boy. "Name's Naruto." The white-haired kid gets out between bites of food. "Natsu," says the pink one also around food. They both continue to eat away, not giving any more information. Lucy lets out a sigh watching her savings being shoveled into these strangers' mouths. Until she realizes something. Aren't they both like pretty hot? The white-haired one is actually incredibly hot. She asks herself with a blush growing on her cheeks. Until another thought hits her. "Hey, I only said I would pay for his meal," Lucy yells out, pointing at Natsu. Naruto stops eating and looks up at her. She lets out a small gasp when she sees his weird blood-red eyes. "Oh well, I have already started. It would be mean to turn away a hungry person," Naruto says through a wide smile. Lucy huffs and rolls her eyes. "Fine, only because I'm going to join a guild soon and make more money," Lucy says warily as she watches Naruto as he starts to shovel food into his mouth again. A few minutes go by and both weird-haired strangers let out a large burp and set their empty plates down. They both realize what had happened and smile at each other. Natsu turns to Lucy and cocks his head to the side. "You said you were going to join a guild. Which guild you want to join?" Lucy's eyes light up and she holds up a copy of Sorcerer magazine. She flips a few pages in and turns the magazine around, showing them the pages. "I want to join a guild called Fairy Tail. They are super strong and cool. Only the best mages can get into it." Natsu and Naruto both grab their chins and sagely nod their heads. "Plus they have some of the most popular mages in all of Fiori. Look at this, they have the famous Murahin Strauss. She is the most popular female mage alive." Naruto and Natsu look at each other and shrug their shoulders. As they shrug their shoulders, a flying blue cat burst into the restaurant. "Natsu, there you are. Don't leave me like that again." The cat screams as it slams into Natsu's chest and starts to cry. "Happy, where were you? I thought I lost you," Natsu says, hugging the cat back. Happy looks at the various plates of food on the table and start to bounce his paws off Natsu's chest. "You didn't even save any fish," the cat cries. "Why wouldn't you save any food for him?" Naruto wonders out loud. "That's the problem you have with a talking cat," Lucy yells, looking at Naruto weirdly. "You haven't seen a talking animal before?" Both guys say at the same time before looking at each other and laughing again. Lucy rolls her eyes and stands up. "Well, thanks for saving me again, Natsu, and you are welcome for the free meal, Naruto," Lucy says over her shoulder as she walks out the door. Natsu looks over for Naruto, but all he sees is a flash of white light. He can't find Naruto anywhere. Naruto flashed away to outside the store and smiles. "Those kids are pretty nice." Natsu seemed to have a lot of potential. "I guess Lucy could be a good mage if she trained hard, but what are the chances of that happening? I will probably check out Fairy Tail too. They seem to at least have some hot women." Naruto giggles to himself and rubs the back of his neck sheepishly. Naruto is wandering around town a few minutes later, looking for something to do when he sees Lucy again. He goes to wave at her and pauses, seeing the creepy mage from before approaching her. The mage introduces himself as Salamander and talks to her about joining his guild Fairy Tail and how he will talk to the guild master tonight on his yacht. He asks her to come to his party tonight so she can join Fairy Tail. Lucy of course immediately agrees and says she will be there. Lucy waves goodbye to the mage and walks to her inn to get ready. As she turns around, she sees a white flash but shrugs it off and starts walking away. A few hours later, Lucy was on Salamander's boat for his party. There are a few people milling about eating food and talking. Salamander approaches her. "How are you liking my party so far?" he asks, sliding up to her. For some reason he makes Lucy's skin crawl. It's pretty nice, but I'm not here to party, sadly. I'm here to join Fairy Tail," she says, nervously looking around. Of course you would like to join our guild. I will talk to the master as soon as our party is over. So why don't you enjoy yourself? Here, this is my favorite champagne," he says, holding a bottle up and pouring it in a glass and handing it to Lucy. As she lifts it up to her lips, Lucy hears a familiar voice yell. "This food sucks. It tastes weird." Lucy turns around and sees Naruto shoveling food into his mouth. She is curious and looks at her drink. Her eyes widen as she realizes there is a sleeping spell in the champagne. You just tried to drug me, didn't you? Lucy yells, throwing the glass to the floor, spilling the drink. Just what is going on here? She accuses, pointing at Salamander. He laughs and a creepy grin splits across his face. I don't know who that guy is, but he just made your fate even worse. If you drank it, you would be asleep when we sold you into slavery. Salamander says, holding his hand up and snapping. As the snap rings out, multiple men come out from doors. Each are armed with magic weapons. Some are carrying unconscious women from the party who didn't hear Naruto's outburst. Lucy lets out a gasp, realizing what is happening. You guys are slavers. I will never join Fairy Tail if this is what you guys doing. She says, pulling out her keys and taking a battle stance. Naruto, you should get out of here before a fight breaks out. Lucy yells, looking over her shoulder to try and protect the person. As she looks for him, she finds him passed out on the floor. Oh yeah, I guess the food had sleep magic on it too, huh? Lucy says with a sweat drop. Well, I guess we don't have to worry about your savior, do we? Salamander says, reaching for Lucy. She pulls out celestial keys, but too late. Salamander grabs them from her hand and throws them overboard. A mage, well, a spirit mage can't fight without her keys, Salamander says, grinning at Lucy. She watches her keys sail over the railing and splash into the ocean, out of reach forever. She looks back to the thugs, terrified. They all start to walk toward her right as a flying pink blur slams into the deck. Turns out the pink blur was Natsu. He lands on the deck and points to Salamander. You aren't a part of Fairy Tail. I haven't seen you, Bjerg. As he's talking, he falls to the deck and turns green. Lucy feels herself being picked up and starts to squirm, fearing the worst. Please stop moving, you are heavy. Lucy realizes that Happy the talking cat is now Happy the talking and flying cat. You can fly? Lucy asks as she is picked up and carried to the land by Happy. Not well, trying to carry you. Happy says, struggling to carry her. Hey, stop calling me fat. Oh, and drop me in the water and save Naruto, he's asleep on the deck, Lucy says, pointing to the spot where her keys fell in the water. Aye, sir. Happy says, throwing her into the ocean. Lucy swims down into the ocean and looks for her keys. She finds them after a few seconds. She swims back to the surface and takes a deep breath. Open gate of the water bearer, Lucy yells and pushes her key into the water and turns it. A bright light flashes and a mermaid with blue hair and a jug of water appears. The mermaid turns and looks at Lucy. Did you summon me without my permission again? She yells at Lucy, grabbing her cheeks and stretching them painfully. There aren't even any hot guys here. She says, pulling on Lucy's face harder. Please, I need your help, Aquarius. Lucy yells. Right as Aquarius is about to start yelling, Happy returns with Naruto. He drops him right in the middle of the two women. The water wakes him up and he jolts awake. Huh, where am I? What's going on? Naruto says, shaking his head clear. Aquarius stares at him slack-jawed. A blush shoots over her face and she pulls Lucy away from Naruto and Happy. Who is that? Is he your boyfriend? Aquarius asks in a hushed tone, still staring at Naruto. Who, Naruto? No, he is kind of an idiot. Enough of that though, I need you to hit the yacht with a tidal wave, please. Lucy says, remembering how violent Aquarius is when she gets asked to do something. Instead of threatening to hit Lucy, Aquarius actually quietly does what she is asked. She holds her jug behind her and throws water towards the ship. A giant wave follows her movements and rushes towards the yacht. The tidal wave slams into the boat and almost capsizes it. The boat rocks back and forth as it rights itself. While it rocks, a loud moan of pain echoes out from it. Oh no. I forgot about Natsu, I hope he is okay. Lucy says, hearing the moan. No, Natsu is knocked out, Happy says helpfully. He has terrible motion sickness. It's so bad he couldn't move before you hit the boat with a tidal wave. Lucy nervously laughs while a sweat drop rolls down her forehead. Well, let's go see if he is okay. Everyone nods and starts to swim towards the yacht. Aquarius nervously picks everyone and throws them on the yacht. Before she leaves, she nervously says, see you next time, Naruto. They all look around worriedly for Natsu. Instead of finding a beat-up Natsu, they see all of the bad guys knocked out and piled under an also unconscious Natsu. Naruto runs up and stops the yacht from moving. The boat lurches to a stop and Natsu starts to lose his green color. Huh? What's going on, Natsu? Did you defeat all these guys? Lucy asks, curiously staring at all the bruises on their bodies. Happy, did you see Natsu fighting? Happy shakes his head. No, I was focused on finding the sleeping guy. I found him in the captain's quarters, passed out. Happy says, poking Natsu's face and giggling when he groans. Naruto wasn't in the captain's room, he fell asleep in the buffet. Lucy says, turning to look at Naruto. He was currently rifling through the unconscious mage's pockets, stealing whatever valuable stuff he can find. Hey, don't do that. Lucy screams, watching him steal. What? I'm broke. And I don't know where I was found, I was asleep. Maybe one of the thugs wanted to move me before Natsu knocked him out. Naruto says, stuffing a wad of jewels and some silverware into his pockets. Lucy narrows her eyes. I guess that makes sense, let's get out of here before the Rune Knights show up. She says, picking up Natsu and running to edge of the ship and jumping off. Natsu wakes up from the water and starts to swim with them. Lucy looks over at Natsu and notices a fairy tale tattoo on his shoulder. Wait, Natsu, you are a part of fairy tale. Lucy screeches, grabbing him by the collar. Yeah, I am. Why do you want to join? Lucy faceplants on the ground. I told you I wanted to join fairy tale while we were eating. Weren't you listening? Lucy asks, shaking Natsu around as she yells. I didn't hear you, I was too busy eating, Naruto says, trying to break Lucy's grip on Natsu's shirt. Natsu nods his head, agreeing with what Naruto said. Lucy huffs and drops Natsu on his butt. Whatever. You think you can get me in? Lucy asks Natsu, who stands up and grabs her hand. He starts running towards his guild. Sure, I think Gramps will love you. He says, dragging her away. Naruto watches Natsu drag them along and waves them off with a smile. As soon as he can't see them anymore, his smile drops and his eyes seem to shine. He turns and looks at the yacht in the harbor. He disappears in a white flash and reappears next to the pile of unconscious mages. He reaches down and picks up Salamander by the neck. The mage wakes up and sees the man who knocked all of his henchmen out in a second flat. He lets out a squeak, realizing he is alone with this monster. Naruto stares into the dark mage's eyes. Naruto Rin Sharingan starts to glow, making him look demonic with his horns and blood-red eyes. You will free these girls and turn yourself into the authorities, or I will be back and I won't let you all live. Understand? The terrified mage rapidly nods his head. Why, yes sir, I will tell the Rune Knights exactly what happened, he squeaks out, unable to tear his gaze away from those terrifying eyes. Naruto throws him to the ground and turns around, walking away. Good man. Oh, and before I forget. Naruto says, walking away. As he is about to get off the boat, he snaps his finger and the engine explodes beneath them, causing the yacht to slowly sink. You have a time limit is the last thing Naruto says before tearing a hole in the air and walking into it. The false god's initiation. Naruto stares at a set of wooden doors. He lets out a sigh and pushes the doors open and takes a step inside. As soon as he takes a step inside, a mug of beer shatters against his face. He just stares at a giant brawl going on by almost everyone in the building. He walks over to the bar and sits down with a sigh. He starts to wipe the beer from his face when a wash rag enters his vision. Thanks. Naruto says, grabbing it and drying his face with it. He looks up and sees a beautiful woman with white hair, blue eyes. Nice hair. Naruto says with a smile. The stranger smiles and twirls a lock between her fingers. Thanks. Not too bad yourself, she says cheerfully. What can I do for you? She says, cleaning a glass out. We don't see many new faces here. You want to join the guild? She asks curiously. Naruto raises an eyebrow. How did you know I was here to join? He says, handing back the now wet cloth. We just had someone join yesterday. She says, pointing to Lucy sitting a few stools away watching the fight with wide eyes. Well, you guessed right. I would like to join. Naruto says, giving her his trademark smile. She nods her head and pulls out a thick book and a stamp. Alright, I will need your name and magic type. She says, opening the book and grabbing a pen to write with. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze and I use, well, I guess you could call it manipulation magic, he says, rubbing the back of his head. Manipulation magic. Never heard of that one before. What does it do? She asks, pausing her writing and staring at him. Well, I can manipulate other people's magic. If someone throws, let's say, a fireball at me, I can deflect it. He says, theatrically waving his hands around. Wow, that sounds extremely useful. She says, scribbling something down. Oh, the name's Mirahin Strauss, by the way. You can call me Mira, Mira says, closing the heavy book and holding up a stamp. Now what color and where do you want your guild mark? Naruto takes a few seconds to think and opens his kimono, revealing his chiseled chest. Mirahin's eyes widen and a blush appears on her cheeks. I would like it in orange right here, please. Naruto says, pointing to his right pectoral. She absent-mindedly nods her head and presses the stamp against his chest. When she pulls it away, Orange Fairy is there. He grins and closes his kimono and straightens it out. Is that all? I thought I would have to take a test or something, Naruto says, pouting slightly. Well, the master has the last say, but you seem strong enough from your magic alone. You still need to speak to him though, she says. Awesome. Now is this a normal occurrence? He says, pointing to the still ongoing brawl between all the guild members. Yep, usually every day. Unless Urza or the master stop them. Mira says, giggling slightly. You mean this happens every day? Lucy calls from the end of the bar. It's all in good fun, of course, no one actually wants to hurt anyone else. Mira says, turning to look at Lucy. See, everyone is smiling. She says, and true enough, every single person is smiling ear to ear as they fight. I think I will have to introduce myself, Naruto says, standing up and cracking his neck. He wades into the fray, fist swinging. A few minutes later, Naruto is the only person left standing. Everyone else had either been knocked out or backed off. Naruto looks at everyone staring at him. "Hi, my name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Pleased to meet you all," he says with a huge smile on his face, ignoring the moans of pain all around him. As he finishes his introduction, he reaches his hand out and catches a flaming fist in his hand, stopping Natsu cold. "Hey, it's you. What was your name, Boruto?" Natsu says, scratching his chin and staring at Naruto. "It's Naruto and he just joined the guild." Mira helpfully yells from the bar. "Really?" Natsu says, surprised. "I didn't know you were a mage. We should fight," Natsu says, punching his fist into his palm. Naruto shrugs and turns around, stepping over the people slowly regaining consciousness under him. "I have to go meet the master first. Then we can fight," Naruto says, walking towards the side of the building. "Other way." Mira calls out, making Naruto turn on a dime and rubbing the back of his head. Naruto knocks on the door and hears a come in from inside and opens the door. The master wasn't what Naruto was expecting at all. Sure, he could tell the man was strong, but he expected a tall, scarred man. Not the short old man who was sitting at the desk. The man couldn't be more than 3 feet tall and had to be at least 50 years old. "What do you want?" the man asks, looking up at Naruto as he enters. "You aren't some council stooge trying to get Fairy Tail disbanded, are you?" he asks, a threat clear in his voice. "No, Naruto, I just joined your guild and Mira told me to come see you," Naruto says, shaking his head quickly. "Oh, if that's the case, please sit down. Sorry for the third degree, but I have had it up to here dealing with all the damage these idiots cause. You're not someone who causes a huge amount of property damage when they fight, are you?" the old man says, glaring at Naruto and sizing him up. Instead of answering, Naruto nervously chuckles and looks away. "Of course, oh well, please sit down. My name's Makarov," he says, pointing to the open chair on the other side of his desk. Naruto sits down and looks back at Makarov. "Now what makes you want to join Fairy Tail?" Makarov says, staring at Naruto. "Well, I met Natsu and just had to see what kind of place would let someone like him out unsupervised," Naruto says, grinning good-naturedly. Makarov lets a breath out and rubs his temples. "Yes, well, as you can probably tell, he is not the only idiot here," Makarov groans out. "Well, you seem nice enough, but we have a few rules here. First, you can't kill anyone. If you do, I will have to kick you out." Naruto nods his head. "Second is we are a family here. Everything we do is to help and protect another. No matter what, you put your family first, understand?" Naruto nods his head again. "Well, if you can follow those rules, then I am happy to call you an official member of Fairy Tail," Makarov says, shaking Naruto's hand. "The last thing is we need to test how strong you are. I hope you aren't against a spar with someone," Makarov says, standing up and opening the door. "I already have a fight with Natsu actually," Naruto says, walking out of the door. He immediately leans to the left, dodging a flaming fist that now occupied the space where his head once was. "Oh, Natsu, wait till we get outside," Makarov yells at the pink-haired hothead. "But master, he said we would fight after he talked to you and he's done," Natsu says, bouncing up and down from excitement. Makarov rolled his eyes. "You can wait 30 seconds till we get outside," he says, leading Naruto and Natsu outside to a clearing behind the guild. As they walk out, almost the entire guild follows them. Naruto beat almost the entire guild in that last brawl. They wanted to see how strong he truly was. Natsu stopped walking at one end of the clearing and started bouncing again from excitement. Naruto walked to the other end and turned around. Now the rules of this spar are as follows. No attacks that can kill or do serious damage. The fight will go until either I stop it or one person is unable to continue. Do you both understand these rules?" Makarov said as the entire guild gathers around the clearing waiting for the fight. Naruto quietly nods and Natsu slams his fist into his palm, also nodding. "Alright. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Go," Makarov yells, starting the spar. "I hope you are ready, Naruto, because I'm fired up," Natsu says, encasing his fists in fire and running at Naruto. Naruto simply watches Natsu close the distance. "Before you get too close, you better be ready for the consequences," Naruto yells, sliding into a fighting stance. His legs were shoulder width apart and his arms were in front and behind him, his palms up. Natsu speeds up, closing the distance. Natsu stops right in front of Naruto and throws a fiery punch towards his head. Naruto slides sideways, dodging the punch. As he slides from the punch, his arms wrap around Natsu's arms. A quick twist later and Natsu is flying through the air. Natsu is able to right himself and lands back on the ground. After Natsu blinks, he realizes that he is in the same spot he started. "I thought you said you were ready to start, Natsu," Naruto taunts with a foxy grin on his face. Natsu's smile grows even larger. Natsu closes the distance with Naruto again, this time throwing a kick with his foot on fire. Naruto steps past the kick and traps Natsu's leg with his arm. Natsu grins and takes a deep breath. His chest expands as he fills his chest with magic. Naruto's eyes widen as Natsu yells. Fire dragons roar. A huge amount of fire rolls out of Natsu's mouth, completely engulfing Naruto in flames. Everyone gasps knowing how strong that attack can be. The flames die down, and instead of seeing a burned Naruto, there is no one there. Natsu, realizing that Naruto had dodged the attack, looks around for him. He looks all around and can't find him. Right as he was about to say something, a hand pops up from underground and drags Natsu under, leaving only his head exposed. Naruto climbs out from the ground and looks at Natsu. "You give up, kid," he says, flicking Natsu on the nose. Instead of getting upset, Natsu grins and starts to climb his way out of the hole he is in. Before he can get fully out, Naruto leans down and flicks Natsu on the forehead. A shockwave of pressure happens as his fingers hits Natsu's forehead. Natsu's head lolls to the side as he is instantly knocked out. "Winner Naruto!" Makarov yells to the astonishment of the crowd. The only people who can beat Natsu that quickly are someone of Urza's level or higher. To think the new person who joined could be at that level was surprising. Naruto walks towards the crowd and smiles. "Oh, aren't you forgetting something?" Murahin says, pointing to Natsu's head sticking out of the ground. "Oh yeah, sorry," Naruto says before stomping his foot on the ground. As soon as he does, Natsu's body gets thrown into the air and lands in a heap nearby. "They're good as new," Naruto says, smiling at Mira. She rolls her eyes and walks towards Natsu, hiding a small smile on her face. She walks over to Natsu and shakes him awake. As soon as Natsu is awake, he runs over to Naruto with stars in his eyes. "You are so strong. You have to teach me that move," he says, mimicking pulling someone underground. Happy flies over and lands in Natsu's hair. "Aye. With that move, Natsu, you might be able to beat Gilderts," the cat says, starting to eat a fish. Naruto raises his eyebrow. "Who is Gilderts?" Makarov walks over to Naruto. "Gilderts is the strongest person in our guild and an S-class mage," he explains to Naruto. "What's an S-class mage?" Naruto asks, leaning down to look at Makarov. "An S-class mage is the highest ranking of mage you can get. We currently have 5 S-class mages in Fairy Tail." Naruto cocks his head and stares at the master. "Who are they?" Makarov points to Mira. "Well, Mira here is one. The others are Urza, Gilderts, Mystigan, and my grandson Laxus," Makarov explains. Naruto looks up at Mira with a surprised expression. "You are an S-class?" She nods her head. "Although I don't fight anymore, I still am considered one." Naruto whistles, "Pretty and strong. What a combo." Mira blushes and looks away. "Well, why don't you have a few rounds at the bar for winning?" "On the house," she says. Naruto smiles and starts to walk into the guild. "Sounds like a great idea." Makarov jumps up on Naruto's shoulder. "We need to talk tomorrow. So show up early and come into my office, alright?" he whispers in Naruto's ear. Naruto nods and walks inside. The entire guild following and chatting about the spar. Chapter 5. The False God's First Steps. Author's note: Hey guys, it's your boy back at again with a new chapter. This story is doing a lot better than I thought it would, so I just want to say thank you to everyone who has read this. I assumed this would have one comment that just said kill yourself and that's it. I also wanted to address a question people had. Naruto does not know magic. Being able to control energy is just him creatively using his diva path from his Rin Sharingan. He lied to Fairy Tail and said it was magic. With that, here's another chapter. The False God's First Steps. Naruto pushed the back door to the guild open and walked inside, followed by the rest of the guild. They were all chatting about how casually Naruto was able to beat one of the up-and-comers in the guild like Natsu. Naruto sat at the bar and watched as Mira walked behind the bar and poured him a glass of beer. Naruto takes a sip of beer and stares at Mira over the top of his glass. She notices his look and turns to him. "You know, if you keep looking at me like that, you will have to buy me dinner," she says sarcastically. Naruto laughs and puts his drink down. "Sorry for staring, I'm just trying to figure out how someone as gentle seeming as you can be one of the strongest here." Mira lets out a hollow laugh and turns around. "Life has a funny way of taking the fight from you," she says, obviously thinking of something sad. "That's funny, I have always found myself fighting against life. You also didn't strike me as the giving-in type," Naruto says, taking another sip from his drink. Murahin heard him say it and turned around quickly. "Do you know what it's like to see someone you love die?" She starts to berate him for his words, but upon seeing the broken look in his eyes, her mouth audibly shuts. "Who did you lose?" Naruto asks in a gentle whisper, trying to hide their conversation from the partying guild behind them. "My sister," Murahin says, barely audible over the noise of the party. Naruto nods his head and takes another sip. "How about you? Who did you lose?" Murahin asks, pouring another beer for him before he finishes that one. Naruto closes his eyes and a single tear falls into his drink. "Too many," he lets out, downing the rest of his beer and taking the next one. "Well, enough sad talk," Naruto says, standing up and wiping his eyes with his sleeve. He turns around and walks over to the only other people he knows. As Naruto walks away, Makarov sits at the bar. Seeing the look in Mira's eyes, he looks at Naruto. Everything okay? Mira nods her head and smiles at Makarov. Yep, just sharing some memories. Makarov nods and stares at Naruto, who has sat next to Natsu and Lucy. How strong do you think he is? He defeated Natsu without even using any magic. We both know Natsu isn't the strongest here, but he isn't a pushover. Mira smiles and looks up at Makarov. I think he is close to Gildert's. Makarov spits his drink out. What makes you say that? I mean, he is obviously strong, but Gildert's? Makarov questions. Nothing in particular. Just the look in his eyes reminds me of him. He has sacrificed a lot to get where he is. She says, wiping up the beer Makarov spit out. When you say it like that, I get where you are coming from. Makarov says, looking back at Naruto and watching him and Natsu laugh. Hopefully he isn't as destructive as Gildert's or I will have a heart attack. Mira giggles and hands a beer to a random guild member. I wouldn't do any strenuous activity if that's the case. She says, smiling at Makarov. He just shakes his head and walks into his office to do some paperwork. Naruto walked over to Natsu, Lucy, Happy, and one other person. So this is Fairy Tail, huh? I can see why you liked. They all turned and looked at Naruto. The other person was the same age as Natsu and had black hair. The strangest thing about him was that he was completely naked. They allow streaking here? Naruto says, looking at the naked stranger. Huh, streaking? Oh crap, not again. The stranger says before standing up and looking for his clothes. Does he do that often? Naruto asks, sitting down next to Lucy. Yeah, something to do with how he trained. Natsu says with a smile on his, watching the naked guy scurry around picking his clothes up. After a few minutes, the strangers walks back over, luckily fully clothed. Sorry about that. It's a bad habit. The name's Grey Fullbuster. He says, taking his place next to Natsu. I saw your fight against Flame Brain here and I just want to say I'm impressed. You seem pretty strong. Hey, I didn't lose that badly, idiot. Natsu says, slamming his forehead against Grey's. Lightning shoots from both of their eyes as they square off. I don't mean to get in between this, but yeah, you did, Natsu. Lucy says, sheepishly looking away from him. Fine, how about this, Naruto, fight me again. Natsu says, his fists catching fire, and he throws himself at Naruto. Without even looking, Naruto karate chops him, knocking him out immediately. He hits him so hard that he leaves an outline of his face on the wood table. Grey just laughs and Lucy looks over at Naruto. How strong are you anyway? She sacks him, looking at him warily. Naruto laughs and rubs the back of his neck. Strong enough to protect myself and no more. As soon as he says that, he feels a wave of magic roll over the guild. Everyone's eyes start to droop before people start to fall asleep. Naruto looks around, realizing the only person left awake is Makarov. What's going on, Makarov? Naruto asks, standing up. Don't worry, that's just Mystic in another S class. He doesn't like being seen, so he puts everyone to sleep. Makarov says. The door opens and a tall man wrapped in a cloak and carrying a staff walks in. He's startled seeing someone besides Makarov awake. He gets over the surprise and walks inside and pulls a piece of paper off a board. He turns around and walks out. The magic goes away and people start to wake up. I hate it when Mystigan comes here. Grey says when he wakes up. So that's another S class. What are the others like? Naruto asks once everyone is awake. Grey looks over at him. Well, Laxus is a major prick. Urza is scary and Gildartsis, well, he is nice at least. Grey says. Naruto nods. When Mystigan came in, he grabbed a piece of paper off the board over there. What is that for? Naruto says, pointing to a poster board covered in flyers. Oh, that is the job board. People who want to hire a wizard make a request and they get put up there. That is how most wizards make money. Grey explains. Naruto nods and walks over to the board. He looks over a few of them and sees one he likes. He pulls it off the board. Alright, so do I just do the job or does someone have to check it? Naruto asks Grey. Well, you need to get it signed off by either Mirror or the master. Which one did you pick? Naruto hands the paper over to Grey. The paper is for a job where a small town has been terrorized by a dark mage and will pay to have them taken care of. Yeah, this looks fine. You sure you can handle it alone though? Grey asks. It should be fine, don't worry about it. He says, walking over to Mira and showing her the job. She nods her head and writes something down in a ledger. You are good to go, Naruto. Be safe and good hunting. Mira says, waving at him as he turns and walks out the door. As soon as Naruto is a fair distance away from the guild, he creates a portal and walks into it. He appears a few miles away from a town named Dewhurst. He walks to the town and starts looking for the mayor, the one who posted the quest. He walks up to the door and knocks on it. A few seconds later, the door opens and reveals an old butler. Yes, may I help you, sir? He inquires. Yes, my name is Naruto and I'm a mage from Fairy Tail. I have accepted your mission. I'm here to meet with the mayor. The butler steps out of the way and fully opens the door. Ah yes, of course. The mayor is in the third room on your right. Naruto says his thanks and walks into the home. He goes to the right room and knocks. Hearing a faint come in, he opens the door. Inside is an older looking man in a nice suit. "Yes, my name is Naruto, I'm the mage you requested." The mayor breaks out in a huge smile and stands up. "Ah yes, please come in. Thank you in advance. This mage has been a huge problem," he says, shaking Naruto's hand and pointing him to an empty chair across from him. Naruto sits in the chair. "So what can you tell me about this mage?" The mayor nods. "Of course. Well, they are a male in their mid-20s and usually come into town at night. They have been kidnapping people for a few." Like the mayor says, he looks to be in his mid-20s. He had brown hair and a scar running across his jaw. All in all, a nondescript baddie. "Alright, do you know where he has taken these people?" The mayor shakes his head. "Sadly, no. We only know he takes them north." Naruto stands up and shakes the mayor's hand. "Alright sir, rest assured I will take care of this mage." Naruto walks out of the mayor's house and heads north. A few minutes out of town, he senses someone in a cave not too far away. Sneaking into the cave, he realizes it's the mage he is looking for. The mage is facing away from the entrance. He seems to be talking to someone. "Sir, the tests seem to be going well. We have gotten the rate of success up to 50%. The subjects seem to get very aggressive and attack anyone they see," the mage says. A voice too faint to hear replies for a few seconds. After it finishes speaking, the mage says goodbye and starts to walk towards a cage with a few prisoners. "You know, testing on people without their consent is a crime," Naruto calls out, surprising the mage. "What, who are you?" the mage yells, looking at Naruto in slight fear. "I'm the guy who's gonna take you in," Naruto says, looking into the cage behind him. There were a few people, but they all looked weird. They all had the same purple sickly skin. Their eyes were unfocused and idly searching. Seeing what he did to these innocent people caused Naruto's blood boil. "What have you done to them?" Naruto asks, staring at the mage. "I have given them new life and a purpose," the mage says, theatrically waving his arms. "Purpose? What is the purpose in this senseless violence?" Naruto asks, tightening his hands into fists. "I wish to see what happens when a certain type of magic is injected into someone's body," the mage says, getting into a combat stance. "Enough talk. You will find out what I'm doing to them soon enough." Naruto nods his head and follows suit, sliding into his own stance. Unlike when he fought Natsu, this time he stood rigid with one arm behind his back and the other in front of his face. "I am going to enjoy this," Naruto says, staring at the mage. The mage raises his hands and yells out. "Army of Bone." The dark purple magic circle appears in front of his hands and skeletons rise from the ground in a loose circle around him. Naruto looks at the 10 skeletons and flicks his wrist. A gout of flame rolls across the cave, melting the rock where it lands. It washes over the skeletons, reducing them to ash. The mage's eyes widen as he sees the flames getting closer. "Wall of the Dead." He yells, casting a defensive spell. A wall of bones shoots up in front of him just in the nick of time. The flames slam into the wall and push against it. The wall holds strong but just barely. The flames disappear, showing Naruto hadn't moved an inch. The wall pushes back into the floor. The mage is panting heavily from the exertion of blocking the attack. Looking around the cave, he sees pools of melted rock where the fire got too close and melted it. "What kind of magic is that?" the mage says, fear in his voice at the amount of magic power that took. "Magic? No, I just threw some fire at you. You aren't near strong enough to deserve my actual attacks. Here, let me show you." He points his finger at the mage. A ball of lightning grows on the tip of his finger. It shoots out and hits the wall next to the mage in an instant. All of a sudden, the mage feels a draft on the side of his head. When he turns to see where it's coming from, he sees a hole burn straight through the rock to the outside. Looking back at Naruto, he notices more balls of lightning on each of his fingers. "So are you coming with me?" The mage drops to his knees and nods his head. Naruto walks forward and places his hand on the mage's shoulder. They disappear in a flash of white light and reappear in the mayor's office. The mayor jumps in his chair when they appear. "Oh, you got him already? That was fast," he says, standing up and looking closely at the mage. After making sure it was the right man, he slaps handcuffs on him and puts him in jail. "Yes, well, because you were so quick, I will give you a bonus to the reward," the mayor says, handing a stack of paper to Naruto. "What's this?" Naruto says, inspecting the weird paper. "Your payment," the mayor says, sitting back down and lighting his pipe. Naruto nods his head and walks out. Next thing he needs to do is find a house. The false god finds a team. Naruto had a huge smile on his face as he was walking down the street. For the first time in a few weeks, he had a pocketful of cash and he wanted to spend it. After Naruto completed the job where he had hunted down that dark mage, he teleported to the guild. Naruto was walking up to the doors and pushed them open with a huge smile on his face. Instead of seeing people smiling and having a fight, he saw serious faces and a new Redeed girl. Raising an eyebrow, he walked in and up to the new girl. She was currently lecturing Natsu and Gray on how to be good friends. He looked over to Mira who was behind the bar who was strangely not looking back at him. She had a mischievous smile on her face for the first time. He shrugged at her weird attitude and turned his attention back to the read. And good friends never talk down to each other. The girl says, earning a scoff from Naruto. Hearing someone dare to speak up to her, she turns to see who is getting the next lecture. When she lets out a girly squeak seeing a stranger close to her. She had never felt him get close, and that startled her. As soon as she squeaked, a grin broke out over his face. She opened her mouth to yell at him, but he beat her to it. "You have really pretty hair," is the last thing she expected him to say. It surprised her so much she closed her mouth with an audible click of her teeth. Everyone else in the guild's mouths were wide open. Not only has Naruto made Urza make the most feminine noise anyone had ever heard her make. He also stopped her talking with just one sentence. He had only met her for 30 seconds and had broken her. In this moment a seed was planted that Naruto was not a normal man. At this point Urza's mind had rebooted and she blushed very lightly and twirled a finger through her hair. She completely forgets about him laughing at her. "So who are you?" Naruto asks her, never seeing her before. She jumps and her blush disappears. "Oh, my name is Urza Scarlet. I'm an S-class mage in Fairy Tail," she says, looking at him with curiosity. "Who are you?" she asks, never seeing him before. A broad smile breaks across Naruto's face as he hops up onto one foot. He starts to hop around on one foot while traditional kabuki music picks up from nowhere. "I am the Eternal Sage. One whisper of my name fills women's hearts with lust and fills men's with dread. I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze," he yells, doing a weird hopping dance and whipping his hair around his head. Everyone in the entire guild stares at him for a few seconds before they all burst out laughing. A rain cloud appears over Naruto's head and he falls to his hands and knees. Why did they laugh? It killed when Jiraiya did it, he whispers to himself, drawing circles on the floor with his finger. "Yahanwe Natsu, I need you for a mission. I need strong mages, so Gray, you come as well," Urza says, grabbing Natsu by the scarf and dragging him. Before she could make it out of the door, Gray yelled. "Why not bring Naruto as well? He beat Natsu in a fight." That caused Urza to stop moving. She came to a stop so quickly Natsu slammed into her and fell on the ground. She looked over to Gray. "What do you mean he beat Natsu? He looks like he can barely beat gravity trying to get out of bed," she says, looking Naruto up and down while he is still crying in the corner, mumbling something about a pervy sage. She stared at him for a minute and tried to gauge how strong he is. She closed her eyes and felt for the magic in him. She couldn't find a single magicule in him. That caused her to raise her eyebrows. You needed magicules to even live. So if he didn't have any, that means he was hiding his power. This made Urza very curious in Naruto's strength. Natsu isn't a pushover. If he keeps getting stronger, she can see him getting just as strong, if not stronger than herself. She made a decision and called out, "Alright, Naruto, would you like to go on a mission with us?" This made Naruto raise his head up and pout. He thinks about it for a few seconds and nods his head. Urza lets out an appreciative hum. "Well, alright, meet us at the train station in 20 minutes. She says, dragging an unconscious Natsu with her. Gray shakes his head and shrugs, walking out with her. Lucy walks over to Naruto while he picks himself up. "You are going on the quest. You don't know anything about it." Naruto stands up and dusts himself off and shrugs. "Yes, well, I'm bored as hell here, so I want to go on an adventure," Naruto says, walking out of the door. Lucy is sticking close behind him. "You coming with us, Lucy?" She starts to make an excuse, but upon seeing Naruto's facial expression she can't help but nod. Naruto is looking at her with hope and joy. She can't turn down such a hopeful face. She walks back into the guild to get her things. When she walks back out, Naruto is gone. She runs down the road and is able to catch up to Urza and the rest of them. "Oh, Lucy, are you coming with us?" Urza asks, happy to have another mage with them. Lucy smiles and nods. "Yeah, Naruto asked me to come." Urza smiles and starts talking to the girl. They stop by Urza's house and they get her clothes. Naruto had teleported to the train station and was waiting for the rest of the team. Hearing a low rumbling sound, he turns and sees a huge cart full of luggage being pulled by Urza and the rest of the team. Urza pulls up next to him and the team spreads out. "Ah, Naruto. Where are the rest of your clothes and equipment?" Urza asks him, not seeing any bags. "Oh well, this is the only set of clothes I have," Naruto answers, holding his arms up and twirling a little bit, showing off his kimono. Urza nods her head in understanding. "I too only have the essentials," she says, proud of them. Everyone's sweat drops and looks at the 15-foot high pile of bags and cases. "Yes, so where are we going and what are we doing?" Naruto asks her, not having any information. "Ah yes, we are looking for a dark spell called Lullaby. Supposedly it is a spell that causes everyone who hears it to die. We need to stop whoever is looking for it." Everyone gulps, hearing how dangerous the magic is. They all realize how serious this mission is as a train pulls up next to them. Here, get on this train, we are heading to Onibus town. Urza says, walking onto the train with the rest following. They all take their seats close to each other on the train. I was just finishing up another mission when I had two Dark Guild members talking about how they unsealed Lullaby. Our mission is to hunt down the Dark Guild Eisenwald. Urza says, going on to tell them all about the guild and its members. What's a Dark Guild? Lucy asks, never hearing the term before. Ah yes, I forgot we have two newbies with us today. Well, Dark Guilds are magic guilds who have taken evil jobs and been blacklisted by the Magic Council. Urza explains to them. Naruto and Lucy both nod their heads. So what has this guild done to become a Dark Guild? Naruto asks curiously. Well, supposedly there is a strong mage called Ariger who has done assassination contracts. Urza says, staring at Naruto. Lucy shivers and Naruto closes his eyes in thought. So Naruto, what kind of magic can you use? Urza asks him. Everyone minus emotion sick. Natsu turns towards Naruto, being curious as well. Oh well, I actually manipulate others' people magic. Like, well, let's say someone uses a ranged spell, I can make it go into the air and disperse harmlessly. Other than that, I just punch stuff. He says with a wide smile. Everyone's eyes widen, realizing how useful magic like that can be. I have never heard of that kind of magic before. Is it an ancient magic? Urza questions. Naruto quirks his head to the side. What's an ancient magic? Lucy beats Naruto to the question. Well, ancient or lost magic is magic that has been wiped from history. Making it very rare, Gray says, talking for the first time. As soon as he finishes his explanation, an explosion rips through the train. Chapter 7. The False God's Wrath. Author's note: hey howdy hi. I wanted to just say that I know my grammar is bad at best. I have always had trouble with it. So if you would like to beta this story, please by all means contact me. I also have a few ideas in mind to make this story less cliché, but with that in mind, I like the super overpowered Naruto stories. That's why I'm writing one. I will also try to make the chapters longer. Also, with regards to Naruto being a sad boy. In my story, Naruto isn't the same Naruto as the before the Great War. He saw Sasuke die in front of him and failed to not only save his friends but literally every living person in his world. So he has a lot of guilt and regret on his shoulders. That's why he ran away from his home, because he can't face his mistakes. Now onto the story. The False God's Wrath. An explosion ripped through the train, sending people and luggage flying around. Urza, Lucy, and Gray are thrown from the train, leaving only Natsu and Naruto inside. Naruto looks down and sees his clothes are covered in soot and ash. He clicks his tongue and starts to brush it off. A guy with black hair drawn into a spiky ponytail walks down the aisle. Seeing who was left on the train, he laughs out loud. I guess you fairy tale flies are unlucky enough to be stuck on here with me. He threatens, looking at Natsu's guild mark. Natsu lets out a sickly moan in response, and Naruto continues to brush off his nice white clothes. Never should have worn white, thought it would look cool with my hair, new had to be white, Naruto mumbles to himself. The stranger's eyebrows twitch in annoyance for being ignored. I'm talking to you, flies. He growls out at the two. Natsu just gurgles again, and Naruto keeps cleaning. The stranger starts to impatiently tap his foot. Are you deaf? He asks, reaching for Naruto. As soon as his hand touches Naruto's collar, he is suddenly looking at the ceiling. Confused as to what is happening, the stranger realizes he is currently on his back with Naruto holding him down, still wiping off his clothes. No matter how much he struggles, he can't get free. It's like he was being pinned down by a building, not a man. Hey, let me go. He yells as he struggles to get free. Naruto finally finishes his cleaning and looks down at the man. Were you the one who got my clothes dirty? The man smiles darkly. I will do a lot worse than get your clothes dirty if you let me up, he threatens, knowing he has to buy time for his guildmates to rescue him. Much to his surprise, though, he feels the vice-like grip on his wrists loosen. Naruto stands up off of the man. Alright, let's see what you have got. Naruto says, giving the stranger some room. The man jumps to his feet and laughs. How dumb can you fairies be? You should never give away the advantage to a superior opponent. Knuckle shadow, he yells. The stranger's shadow twists and morphs into multiple fists before shooting towards Naruto. Countless fists speed towards Naruto. Before anyone can blink, they all impact directly. That's one idiot fairy down. Time for the second. The stranger says, turning to a slowly recovering Natsu. Before he can attack, however, a voice calls out. I would never give away an advantage to a superior opponent. To you, however, I don't even need to be conscious to beat. The man's head whips around to stare at Naruto. All of the shadow fists hit him in vital spots, but instead of doing any damage, they stopped moving. Almost like they ran into a steel wall. Shikamaru was stronger than you as a kid. This is really just embarrassing, honestly, Naruto taunted, waving his hand and dispersing the magic. The stranger panics and looks at the still down Natsu. He smiles as he realizes he can take a hostage. He opens his mouth and looks towards Naruto, about to taunt him. When he looks back up, the only thing he sees are two blood-red eyes with rings in them. They glowed with power and stared directly into his soul. "I would advise you to rethink harming my friends." Naruto growled out, his voice no longer carefree but dark and laced with killing intent. The man flinched but was unable to look away, almost like something was holding him in place. Naruto's Rin Sharingan started to lazily spin. The Tomo in his eyes circling the rings in a hypnotizing manner. The stranger's eyes lost focus as he was put under a Jinjutsu. "Good. Now tell me who you are and what you are doing bombing this train," Naruto says just as the rest of the fairy tale team jump back on the train ready to fight. "My name is Kageyama. I am an Eisenwald mage. I was bringing Lullaby back to my guild when I saw you were from Fairy Tail and couldn't help myself." Urza walks up and says, "Where is Lullaby?" Kageyama puts his hand in his coat and pulls out a demonic flute. It is made of dark wood and has a skull with 3 eyes on top. The rest of the guild party gets closer and stares at the flute. "This thing creeps me out," Lucy says, shivering. Natsu shakily gets up to his feet and grabs it from Kageyama's hand and puts it in his pocket. "Well, at least we got it before he delivered it to his guild," Gray says, shrugging. They all turn to leave, knowing the train employees will have called the Rune Knights and that they will take care of Kageyama. They make it off the train when a wind picks up and ruffles all of their clothes. Lullaby falls out of Natsu's pocket. Before it can hit the ground, a cushion of wind grabs it and carries it over to a pale man with a scythe. "Thanks for delivering this," he yells before hopping on his scythe and flying away. "Damn it," Natsu yells before jumping and flying away after him with Happy. The rest of the group yells and chases after the mage. It takes a few minutes for the group to catch up with Natsu. When they do, they see a beaten and bloodied Natsu on the steps outside of a train station. A crying Happy is on his chest. "Natsu." Urza yells and they all group around him. Urza leans down and checks for a pulse. "He is alive," she says happily to the relief of the group. "Happy, what happened?" Naruto asks the talking cat, wondering how Natsu could lose. "Natsu and I caught up to the side guy. After a fight, Natsu beat him up. He said his name was Eriger and talked to Natsu. He was just stalling till the guy's friends came and ganged up on Natsu. He took a few out, but there were just too many." Happy gets out between sobs. The group stare into at the train station right as the intercom clicks on. "Hello and welcome to the first performance of the Eisenwald band." The intercom blares out. Everyone's eyes widen as a beautiful flute starts playing over the intercom. The sound is dark and haunting and it works its way around the station. The first person to fall is a civilian on his way to work. Every other civilian in the area falls lifelessly to the floor. Followed shortly after by Happy, Lucy, Gray, and Urza in that order. After a minute, the only person left living in the entire town is Naruto. Realizing what just happened, Naruto's eyes widen. A dark stormcloud pulls together over the town. Rain starts pouring down, drenching everything. The world seems to be crying for the hundreds of lives lost in an instant. "Haha, did you like that performance, Fairies? Oh wait, I forgot. You're all dead." The annoying voice of Eriger blares out of the intercom. As soon as he says this, all of the rain freezes in midair. Naruto looks up at the building in a rage. A column of dark blue chakra spills out of Naruto, shattering the front of the building and the ground under its weight. Eriger and his friends fall to their knees as a tremendous pressure pushes them down. They are unable to move an inch. As they all freak out, the only sound that can be heard is someone slowly walking towards them. None of them had ever felt something like this. It was like death itself was walking towards them. Each step the stranger took, countless flashes of their own death as horrific waves went through their minds. After what felt like an eternity, the footsteps stopped at the 5-inch thick metal door they had locked themselves behind. The door to the room didn't make a noise as a black ball slowly enveloped it. The ball receded, leaving nothing in its place. Eriger and his friends strained to look up only to see one of the fairy tale mages. "How are you still alive? Didn't you hear Lullaby?" Naruto reins in his chakra, letting the occupants of the room move easily. "Of course I did. I am unable to die. My friends weren't so lucky." Before Eriger can say anything, Naruto raises his hand and snaps his finger. Everyone in the room finds themselves in a weird new place. There are floating balls of stone everywhere. The sky is an ever-changing expanse of color. They are all on one of these floating planets. "Where are we?" one of the mages asks. "We are in my pocket dimension. I teleported all of us here so we won't have to worry about other people." Naruto watches them all stand up and assume fighting positions. "That just means we can kick your ass without anyone stopping us," Eriger says, summoning a gust of wind to let him fly. Naruto bursts out in a dark peal of laughter. He laughs so hard a tear comes to his eye. "I think you misunderstand something. I didn't take you here to fight. I brought you here to show you your place beneath my feet," Naruto says before the gust of wind Eriger was fighting on disappeared, letting him fall to the ground. Right as he is about to hit the ground, he finds himself stopped inches above the ground. He tries to take a breath of relief only to find he can't. Opening his eyes, he realizes he is being held by the throat. Naruto is holding Erigor in one hand. "Before I begin, I want you to know what you are up against," Naruto says. Dropping Erigor to the ground, he turns and looks towards one of the planets in the distance. The thing is easily as big as the planet they live on. Naruto raises his hands up. "False gods prayer," Naruto says, clapping his hands together in a praying motion. A deafening shockwave shoots out and cleanly cuts not only the planet they are on, but also the distant one and two. They can clearly see the core of both planets. Molten metal shoots towards them as the core starts to explode on their planet. Before it can reach them, Naruto snaps and both planets are pulled back together. No one is able to speak as they watch what can only be described as a god turn towards them. "Now let us begin," is all that Naruto says before he blurs out of view. A hand bursts out of a random mage's chest with such force that his chest explodes in a rain of gore. That signaled the start of the massacre of almost 50 mages. Naruto killing each in a new and horrific way. 10 of them died before they even realized what was going on. The next few died before they started fighting back. Every time one of the mages launched an attack, Naruto would purposely get hit by it. Each time showing that even their combined attacks were unable to even dirty his clothes. 2 minutes later, everything was silent. No one was left standing. Naruto looks around at the bodies for a second before snapping again. Each of the mages jump up and take a deep breath. They all look down at their bodies expecting to see horrific wounds, but there is nothing. They all look perfectly okay. Realizing that they were brought back to life, they stared at the person who did it. "The only reason you live is because I have willed it. My friends wouldn't want me to kill you, so I haven't. You will give me lullaby and turn yourselves into the Rune Knights without telling anyone of what happened here. You will never speak of lullaby again. If you break one of my rules, I will not be so nice. Do I make myself clear?" Each of the mages desperately nod their heads, remembering how easily this man picked them off. Like they were nothing but specks of dirt he was removing. Naruto snapped his fingers again and they were back to the train station. Erigor hurriedly hands over lullaby before running away. The other mages follow suit, scurrying away as quickly as they could. Naruto walks back outside and looks at all the dead bodies on the ground. He then goes and brings each of them back to life before wiping their memories of the event. Leaving only his guildmates left. He carries them back onto the train and sets them back in their seats. Placing lullaby back in Natsu's pocket, he brings everyone back. He wipes their memory and smiles. "Well, at least we got it before he delivered it to his guild," Gray says. They all nod and step off the train, knowing the Rune Knights will be here soon for Kageyama. What if Naruto absorbed Kaguya in Fairy Tail? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys next video.